Whenever you're ready.
Alrighty. When I was growing up, I absolutely loved to play at the park. And like any good little sister, I always forced my big brother to come with me. One of our favorite activities was climbing trees. Now we would try to race to the top as quick as we could. We'd always get a few scratches and bruises along the way, but hey, we were kids, it happens. But somehow, I think him being a little older and a little taller, he always made it to the top first. I'd always get to one point and just not be able to go any further. Well, this seems like a nice story about me growing up. It's actually a very serious issue in the workplace. Because it's not just twigs and branches when you look up. As a woman in the workplace, when you look up, you see the glass ceiling. And it's not the next branch that's unattainable, it's upper management positions. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tamara, and I'm here with my colleagues, Abby and Sophia. And with our recommendation of a strategic realignment of your human resources processes, we will help you be able to break that glass ceiling. Abby's just going to run over there quickly for me. Thank you. So over the last couple of years, you've always made sure to be very equitable in your planning. But over the last little while, when you looked into some survey data, you realized that there wasn't a lot of women in the top management positions, which is exactly your primary issue. That with some of your cultural practices, it's turning out that there isn't as many women at the top, which is what we wanted to. Our secondary issue is that there is the gender imbalance in the management positions. Some things to keep in mind during the remainder of this presentation are our critical insights. So your company is absolutely excellent and is one of the few IT firms that have approval global delivery management systems, and you are known for your gender equity. And some assumptions we have made is that you conduct performance appraisals before you do your promotion appraisals, so that's 1 to 2 times per year, depending on your employee. To start things off, we've done an internal and external analysis on your company internally and some things that you are currently being faced with inside of the company. So we have done a congruence model. So you have your people structure, culture, and your critical task. So first off, your people. Your people are very knowledgeable and have very specialized skills. And they're also very autonomous. They're kind of decentralized and they go and work out in a lot of other places. They're not in office all the time. They are working with many clients and they often go straight towards them. This is part of your structure. You also have the global delivery model, as I mentioned, but there is those less women at the higher level, which is really what you would like. And for culture, you have very diverse and accepting culture, and you've really strived for that over the last few years. And you're very innovative, as is required in the market, that everything changes so quickly in technology that you are up with the best for sure. And lastly, your critical task is to provide strategy assistance and full IT services. So some incongruencies that we have pointed out are between your culture and structure and culture, and your task and culture. So firstly, you're known as very unbiased. You have lots of processes intact to try to make a very unbiased opinion in your recruitment strategies. However, you still have few women up at the top. Secondly, it's very demanding. There's lots of travel required, which makes it hard as a woman who might have a family. It might seem that they might not want a consulting position, or it will be harder once they actually get that, and it's hard to accommodate for things of that nature. And lastly, the billable hours and extensive overtime and being diverse and accepting. So as I've mentioned, with lots of people with families, it might be hard to get away. They might see it as just not a good business move for them, or it might seem like it isn't possible for them. That next branch is just unattainable. I will now be passing it off to Abby, who will run you through our external analysis.
Thank you, Tamara. Okay, so we have conducted an external analysis here today, and I'm going to run you through a few of the key points. So it is a very fast-paced industry that grows rapidly. You have nestled yourself into a niche market, and it's important that you ensure that you continue to grow as the industry grows. As well, it is a male-dominated industry, so currently there are plenty more males than there are females within the industry, and that is something you're working towards. And it's important to ensure that you're that forefront, that forerunner to gaining gender equity within the workplace. As well, changing in technological advancements. So this, as the industry grows and is very fast-paced, the technology is also very fast-paced. So it is important to ensure that your employees are being those innovators and creators to grow with the market. That leads us into our decision criteria. So we have 3 main decision criteria to help us choose our alternative and recommendation to date. So the first being employee satisfaction. And we'll measure this by asking, will employees be accepting of the changes and happy So how will the company be viewed within the public and from its employees, as well as the financial feasibility? So does this plan minimize costs? That leads us into our first alternative. Focus on the associate. So this will be a preferential hiring alternative, so that will mean that 35 out of 50 job offers will go to female applicants, as well as increases females at the entry-level ranks, and provides development and training for promotional opportunities for females within the workplace. So on the side of each alternative slide, you will see our decision criteria and a color associated with the decision criteria. So green meaning that it definitely meets the decision criteria, yellow meaning that it neither helps nor hurts the decision criteria, and red meaning that it does not meet the decision criteria. So pros for this alternative is it increases the number of women in the workplace, and cons for this, it is a long-term focus. You want a medium-term plan and a short-term plan, not a long-term one. And this will also provide an unequitable view, and it doesn't ensure that the best applicants are the ones being hired and coming into your company. So for these reasons, it does not meet reputation, as male employees will be upset with this new plan, as well as misperceptions within the media. It neither helps nor hurts employee satisfaction, and it is financially feasible. Our second alternative, implement an HRIS system. So this will be implementing MILA, the HRIS system, who will help with scheduling, employee tracking, employee monitoring, and this can also interpret recruitment matrix to generate more female applicants. So when you recruit in such ways, you gain X number of applicants, and when you recruit in other ways, you gain Y number of female applicants. So this will be a way to ensure your numbers are staying up high, as well as it coordinates decentralized employees. So pros for this is it helps with cost cutting, assists with the administrative duties, as the system can help with those low-level mundane duties. Cons, it doesn't improve culture, and employees may be reluctant to use the system or won't use it properly. So for these reasons, it neither helps nor hurts reputation and employee satisfaction, and it is financially feasible. That leads us into our third alternative, strategic realignment of HR processes. So this will be targeted recruitments towards women and females in the IT industry, and it will adjust compensation benefits to accommodate the needs of employees, as well as communicate to employees and the public your new plan and system, and being transparent with them through the whole process. So pros for this, it improves your public image to the public as well as your employees, and employee buy-in, as well as it attracts local talent. Cons for this, there are costs associated, but there are costs associated with any plan, and this will be a high upfront cost, but in turn, in the future, you will gain many profits back. Also, it is timely. So for these reasons, it definitely meets employee satisfaction and reputation, and is neither helps nor hurts the financial feasible decision criteria, as it is a high upfront cost, but gains profits in the future. So I'm happy to tell you our recommendation of strategic realignment of HR processes, and I'd now like to pass it off to Sophia to go through implementation.
Thank you, Abby. So, where have we been? We went through a little bit of the problem, that issue with that branch just being slightly out of reach. But what if I told you you could design the tree to make that branch reachable? That's what our implementation is planning to do. So we've gone through a little bit of the issue, some internal analysis, external analysis, some alternatives, and finally our recommendation. And now I'm going to show you how to get there. Because it's fine to say you should do this, but realistically, what does that look like? So for us, it is a 5-phase implementation, and that includes communication. So what do the branches look like? So that's communicating to the employees what's happening. Phase 2, recruitment. So building strength through the roots. So starting at that core and branching out. Phase 4, compensation and performance management. So begin that kind of photosynthesis, turning those nutrients into actual branches. And phase 5, start to flower. So that first phase, communication. Assess the situation. This is where you go through the results of communicating with the employees, and that's through an equity survey, which you've already conducted, and discuss the changes with each branch. Again, you guys are very spread out, so it's important to assess each branch individually. We also believe that hosting a public relations press release is very important. This information is going to come out regardless, And it's important to be ahead of the game and transparent about the equity issues, because in this industry it is rampant that these issues are everywhere, and you have been on the forefront. And being transparent about this and releasing it sooner will just allow you to show your plans of change, and that you are building those branches to improve the future and shape tomorrow. Also, it's important to assess current financials, complete current employee satisfaction surveys, and send out client satisfaction surveys, because again, these changes are going to affect all those three stakeholders. Phase 2, recruitment. So our recruitment plan, this starts at the beginning. So recruiting and targeting women's events. So right now, the company has done a great job of attending different colleges and different organizations' recruitment things, but it's important to even go further, to attend those other events, specifically targeting women in the IT industry. The second would be to sponsor a Women in IT event. So this would be a luncheon at senior level management would decide the location of the event, and it would pass from different region and location every year. Phase 3, training and development. So it's important to train and develop your current staff in these gender equity issues and to enable them to really be able to reach those branches. And so this would include workshops and training events. So you would host training conferences. Speakers would be brought in, and this would happen semi-annually, so around each branch would host it once a year. And it would switch between the cities and focus on different themes, including gender equity, but also just developing it so all your staff have an equal ability to reach those branches. And we also would like to create a Women in IT group. So this would be a group that is accessible to every member of the organization, and it allows a forum for people to communicate about how they're feeling about being a woman in this industry, and just talk about these issues, and a place to develop ideas, support, and community. So phase 4, compensation and performance management. Obviously there is an element of compensation, because if you want actions to happen, it's important to compensate them. So we recommend semi-annual performance appraisals. So regardless of whether they are up for promotion or not, to really push these performance appraisals, because they're important and your women are good and they're working hard, so they should have access to those promotions. And it would be based on a BARD, behavioral anchored rating system, and it happens semi-annually, and it could be based on descriptors such as communication, problem solving, client relations, things that are more applicable to the jobs themselves that might not stunt the current women's progress. The next would be changing the compensation benefit plan. So we would include an employee family assistance program, so an EFAP program, and it would just help those families who are maybe struggling to keep up, to allow people to be able to travel and to encourage families, because they're important. And it would also a paid for time not worked program, so additional time off based on overtime hours. So this would be if people want to take vacations with their kids. If they work overtime like they do, because there are many overtime hours worked, they have that option. And this leads into occupational health and safety. So during these events, these conferences, you would bring in speakers conducting ergonomics training as well, because the health of your employees is very important as well. Also, the Pay for Time Not Worked program allows for time off, preventing burnout. Finally, job design. So survey employees to gate ideas of what could be done through their position to reduce the time they need to travel. So being away from home is obviously difficult and could, for some people, prevent them from getting promotions. And so if there were areas of the job that could be done at their central location, to get their feedback on what that looks like. So that could be through Skype Business, improved emails, or phones. There's tons of technology out there, and actually utilizing those resources would be incredibly beneficial to your organization. And have the human resources team go through these and implement the changes. And finally, the review. So this is assessing, looking at your financials, looking at those client surveys that you conducted, and resending out customer satisfaction surveys. So seeing if there was a difference from at the beginning when you took those surveys to now. Look at the employee equity every year to review improvements. So as you progress through, after you've implemented these recruitment and training and development, see if there is a change at the top. because that's after all the goal. And then after that, you can look into implementing HRIS systems, but it's important to develop that strong base at the beginning so that those branches can grow successfully. Finally, I'll take you through a couple costs. There's costs associated with everything. For this plan, we estimated the cost to be about $1,150,000. That includes the cost of the recruitment surveys and the in-kind costs, and that's time that managers are spending towards surveys and other things that they could be devoting to other elements of their job. And although this sounds like a really large number, it's only 5% of your yearly net income. And if it only costs 5% to give these women an opportunity to get those senior management positions, it seems like a worthwhile cost. I'll now pass it off to Tamara to take us through our Lewin's change model.
Thank you, Sophia.
So what the Lewin's change model does is it really ensures that all of our transitions move smoothly. So the first stage is communicate the why. This is the unfreezing and removing any barriers to change. This is like planting the seeds for a good tree. Secondly, it's actually implementing the change. And lastly, it's refreezing it so that the changes are solidified and making sure that they work well with your business. This way. So to unfreeze, you're going to communicate to executives and employees that although you are still very equitable, the survey data is showing that it wasn't quite as much as you thought. It's important to be transparent about this and to have this communicated to everyone so that everyone's on board with it. And when you take the high road, you never have to cover your tracks. This will make sure that you don't have to backpedal and try to cover it up later, just to be upfront with the process. And that will happen during the press release. Secondly is the change. So this is implementing women in IT, it's recruiting. Over a large amount of the IT departments are usually male dominated. So in moving into trying to get more women into those fields, this will also help the equity programs and not just your core business, but in all the branches as well. And this will also happen when we improve the benefits. So this is making sure that when you have the top talent that you do not want them to get burnt out. You want them to stay with you as long as they can, and by doing this, that really helps mitigate that risk of them leaving later on. And then lastly, you want to have client and employee surveys to make sure that everyone's on board with the process and that that transition is moving smoothly. This will also increase numbers for your workshops and monitoring events to make sure that you have a lot of input in the changes and that everyone's getting out of it what they would like to. And once this is all complete, you can move on throughout the process. So I'm going to now go through the balance scorecard. So this is how you're going to evaluate how well this plan works. So firstly, there's the financial perspective. So the objective is to increase your revenues. As you already have really high revenues, you want to maintain that. And you're going to do that by gaining 2 more clients within the first year. Secondly is the customer perspective. So since we're being so upfront with them and we're being very transparent, we also want to make sure you maintain your excellent client relations. So we want to make sure that you increase your client satisfaction, and we're going to do this by sending out a survey that just says, are you satisfied with your service? And we want 75% of them to at least rate a 4 out of 5. Then learning and growth. With this plan, there's a lot of new changes involved, which gives everyone an opportunity to better themselves. So the objective is a knowledge transfer throughout the workshops that we're going to be doing, and the measures that you have at least 300 attendees within the first year, and will only grow from there. And for internal processes. So your objective is to have more flexible ways of communication to make sure that everyone's able to be able to do everything that you'd be looking for when you're doing your performance appraisals. And you want to have 25% of initial first meetings happening through Skype business. So what this would do is it would make sure that less time could be spent on the road, which also minimizes costs, and it would allow more people to be able to have higher up positions. We've identified some of the risks involved with this plan. With any good plan, there's still always some risk. The main one would be that the number of women in senior management positions doesn't improve. Although the likelihood is low, it would be a fairly high impact. But the mitigation for this is to refocus your recruitment efforts and still continue to target more women or more women's events. So in conclusion, we have determined that there is a misalignment of HR processes and your cultural practices. That you tried to make it all in one place and it just didn't quite branch out to all of your other places. But that is being fixed with our strategic realignment of your HR processes. And then on the side, we have our decision criteria that really play into the critical task of your business. So that's your employee satisfaction, your reputation, and financial feasibility. So although there is a corporate ladder and a glass ceiling, it is not unattainable. I would like to thank you for the time and open the floor to any questions.
I will now commence the Q&A period.
During your strategic context, you noted that it is a male-dominated industry, and I'm wondering what, if anything, that means for your generational targets.
So right now, you don't want to go all the way to just say we're only going to hire women, because you really want to make sure you have the top talent. But it is important to keep in mind that the numbers might be sort of skewed due to the fact that that's the way the industry is. But in changing these little things, you can make sure that your business is set aside a little bit from the industry and a front runner in the organization and in that matter.
So currently our organization has a bonus program in place, and that's supposed to compensate our employees for the additional time that they put in outside of regular work hours. In the earned time off program that you recommended, will that then replace our bonus program, or are you looking at having both programs run together at the same time?
Both programs will be running together at the same time. Although the bonuses may be decreased a little bit, employees and especially women and young women in the workplace are really looking for that time with their families, and the pay for time not worked is really what would be important to them, so we're looking to include both programs within our plan.
And then just a follow-up question to that, how is the business going to account for the lost time, given that most of our employees make up their hours through billable hours?
That is an excellent question, and some of that can be done through being able to have more efficient systems, like being able to make a phone call or a Skype call to be able to teach lots of the process when you're implementing your IT things, rather than having people actually drive out. You're just going to save a lot of time in that sense.
So you talked a little bit about the women IT building workshops that you provide. Because there are so much overtime, so many multiple priorities, how do you ensure that the employees will be engaged and participate in those programs?
Like any changes, it's incredibly difficult to implement. And change isn't something that comes easy, but it comes from the top. And we really believe that through the top, changing their ideals and values about what's important, that it will flow down and people will see the importance and benefit of it.
And just to add to that, you already have, you try to be very equitable, you're known as being equitable, and this is just one way to make sure you have the numbers that prove it.
Their implementation costs are fairly high, over $1 million. Have you considered using any of that budget to widen your recruiting funnel?
In doing that and making it wider, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be able to reach the same people that you want. So in helping train up the new people coming in and be able to spread the word to more women in IT and changing things through that, you will still be able to maintain your top talent and have those budgeting costs be allocated more appropriately.
In previous to your implementation plan, you talked about recruitment and investing on women and events. But your first alternative is about focus on associates and maybe move that one out. Is this the best option? Why is it different in these two?
So instead of solely focusing on just recruiting women and not implementing any other changes to the process, we would like to go forward with fixing compensation, benefits, training, and development, as well as recruiting those women as you're already going to the universities and colleges in local places, and focus on getting the whole aspect of the business.
So it's part of that solution. So the risks that came to alternative one will also
Any more questions from the judges? Well, with the press release, how would you deal with any negative PR backlash?
I guess it would be important to focus on what we're doing to change. You know, that mistakes happen, and it's important that you're taking action to correct them. And again, this industry is known as one that is male-dominated, so showing that you are taking that extra step to improve that would go a long way in showing that you're correcting your errors.
Thank you very much for your presentation.